On this episode of Postcards from Pamela, I have invited my big sister, Lori Zich-Ortnow, to interview, and we are going to talk about finding your roots and ancestry on great way to travel. Hi, sis.
Hi. Oh my gosh. Believe it or not, it's my very first interview.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
I'm so excited you're here. You have your Croatia shirt, so I can't wait to talk about that. But I know it's been probably 20 years ago when our mom reached out and found our Croatian cousins. Do you want to share the story of how mom was able to do that and how much joy it's brought to us by finding our cousins?
Yes. Oh my gosh. It has been life-changing. First of all, I want to say that Pam and I and our brother, we actually knew our great-grandmother. She immigrated from what used to be Yugoslavia's Croatia now, and that was in the early 1900s when she was 19 years old, and she immigrated to Omaha, Nebraska. And so growing up, we knew great-grandma. She knew very little English. She made all this great Croatian food, just wonderful memories of her. And actually, so she came over when she was 19. When she was in her early 80s was the first time that she went back to Croatia and visited her only living brother. And it was, again, just incredible for her. And she took two of her daughters with her. So anyway, fast forward probably 40 years, our mother had connections with our Croatian relatives who lived and immigrated to Canada from Croatia. And mom was going on a trip with some friends to Croatia. And so she got a contact for a relative in Croatia. And then, believe it or not, she met up with them. She brought old pictures to prove I am really a relative of yours.
And I don't think they spoke English.
No, not at all. And so that was the beginning of how our connection to our roots happened.
I know, it's been so exciting. So since then, I have been able to travel back with my family to Croatia, and it has completely changed my life. And now, as you know, we've met 20, 40 plus of our Croatian cousins, and they actually own the same farm that our great-grandmother was born on, and we were able to attend the Catholic church where she was baptized, so they still have that there. And I feel like it's just been, a huge connection and so important, to find your family and your blood relatives if you want to. And I know, thank goodness for you and mom, you really, really are into it, probably a lot more than I am. And now it's so exciting that you're looking at, since we met them, you're like, we need to go to Czechoslovakia. We know our, grandfather was that and his family. So I'd like you to share, if someone wants to find out, where their, family came from, if they weren't born in the United States, what do you recommend is the first step? What have you been working on? I know, there's ancestry.com and you can do your blood if you want to share, what you have been doing.
Yes. So actually my first trip with you and mom and our brother was in 2018. And again, I said it was life-changing. It just was to be on the same grounds, walk where great-grandma walked. But the first kind of genealogy place that we went to was the cemetery that was right next to the church where she went and where she was baptized. There gravestones over in Croatia are beautiful, and they give more data on the actual stone kind of than I think we do over here. Number one, they usually put a photo of the deceased person. And then, of course, the year they were born, the year they died, which is basically the same as ours. But seeing that photo was very, very neat.
The photo was Uncle Peter.
Yes, that's who I was thinking of.
And we always heard our great grandma said she came over all by herself. Can you imagine 19 years old, going to a foreign country, not knowing anyone, going over with your either, I think it was uncle or great Uncle Peter, we had always heard about. So we were able to find his grave site with his picture, and just seeing his picture and then imagining what it was like, coming over to the States. It took something like almost a month to get over by, going to France, going to Ellis Island, and then, eventually landing in Omaha, Nebraska.
Yes. So once I came back from that trip, I was so intrigued to learn more about my family. So I started out by going to a free site that's called findmygrave.com. It's free. You put in the person, any information you know about that person. And cemeteries and gravestones can actually give you a lot of different ideas. It might say even who the children are. But one of the other things that I did that was very helpful, I went to our public library. I went to our public college and university and went to their libraries as well. They have a lot of free resources, and what you need to do is find out where their genealogy department is. And
so you're saying, you're saying the university has a genealogy department, or it's on their website?
Actually, it would be at their library. And some of it is on the website, so you may not even have to go. But again, if you have a library card to your local library, you can do things online. One thing that's super, super helpful is finding newspapers during that time frame when you knew that if they immigrated over here and kind of the years that they lived in the United States, the cities, more information you have, the better. And another good thing that you need to start with is talking to family first. Get a nice notebook and write down and talk to older relatives who know some of these stories, know last names, know first names. And then that is a great starting point.
I know we've been able to, I think it's always helpful too. Nowadays, you can just take a video, like we've been videotaping Mom and learning about her history of, she lived with great grandma and great grandpa. He also immigrated from Croatia, and getting that information on video is really helpful too. I wanted to ask you, I know just recently, did you just take the blood test for ancestry.com or one of those? There's a variety of them. How did you decide on that one?
Well, I've used Ancestry in the past. And so I knew that you and I and our brother are part Polish, part Croatian, and part Czechoslovakian. And but I didn't know what percentage of each. So I went on to Amazon. I ordered the DNA test, and along with that came a 3-month free subscription to Ancestry. So I'm still waiting for the results. I think they said it takes like 6 weeks, but I'll be very anxious to see what that says. And also maybe some other relatives that we're not aware of and that we can connect with.
I know we'll have to do a part 2 show when you get your results back and share it with the audience. I know it's funny. Some people think, they think I look like Russian, which I think, no. Good. Like, you look Russian. I'm like, okay. I wanted to talk to you. I think it's fun. Lately, you've been sending me some texts, to all of us on some of this stuff. Because now, like I mentioned, you're now looking at our other side of the family. But I wanted to say one thing, that you found, which I think was surprising. You're able to find on, the United States of America, the petition for naturalization. And our grandmother, Zich, on our dad's side, we found out all this information that some of the siblings were born in Yugoslavia, but then our grandma and a couple of her siblings were born, in Omaha, Nebraska. So you found out some interesting information on that. So I think what you start digging into, different websites and finding a lot of information and start piecing it together.
Yes, it is amazing. The information you can find online. And then if you can't find it online, like birth certificates and death certificates and marriage licenses, you can go to your local courthouse and get those. But once you start putting together all these little pieces, it's like you can see the bigger picture of what your family was like, what they were doing, how they endured that long ship ride to the United States and seeing the Statue of Liberty for the first time. There are a lot of older live videos, actually, like on YouTube you can go to, and you can see from the late 1800s and the early 1900s, the immigrants. During that time, it was mostly the German, the British, and the Irish that were coming over. And between those times, like a 34-year period, there were like 12 million immigrants that came to the United States. But seeing some of that old footage is really amazing. And what they had to go through, even, the doctors had to make sure they didn't have any bad illnesses. Or if they did, they were sent back. But it was very, very stressful for them. But once they got that okay and that piece of paper, they were golden.
I know. Every time like I'm struggling or something, or if I have fear or big challenge, I always think of great grandma and what she had to do to come over here on that boat and everybody's throwing up. I have a hard time on a cruise, so I can't even imagine the kind of ship that they took. So anytime that challenge or fear pops up in my head, great grandma comes to mind. I'm like, what great grandma did and great grandpa did to come over here. I can handle anything. So maybe you want to, think of that relative that, if you have a challenging time, that comes to mind too. All right. So to recap, just wanted to recap. It's been such an adventure, and we hope you take advantage of finding one relative that you can go visit in France, Italy, England, Finland, whatever, Russia, China, wherever your family's from. So tell us again the first step you recommend that someone should do.
Talk to your family and ask as many questions as you can and find out if anyone in your family has done any extensive research. I know there are some families out there who have even published books and then they pass them out to the family members. So it is so rewarding. I would highly recommend it. Once you get started and you start finding little pieces to the puzzle, it's like you can't stop.
Well, I'm so grateful that you've been doing that for us, and I can't wait to go visit Prague, Czechoslovakia, and I know we're Polish too, so we'll be going over to Poland. But thanks, sis, for being on Postcards from Pamela. And I think it's great, all the Finding Your Roots. I know you love that TV show, and ancestry and documenting everything. So thanks for being on the show.
You bet.